Anthony, come over here. Come over here. Sit here. Hold this. Hold this for him.
What am I supposed to do?
You know what? I'm going to go sit over there. You sit here.
Just keep it
Sit
going
here.
strong. It's already done.
Aunt, sit here.
Just
Don't do what you're doing.
everybody ready? Sorry about that. A little technical dislocation. Is everybody hearing? We're gonna just get this going here. We're not trying to blow out anybody's eardrums, but we just want to make sure this works. I want to thank everyone for coming to the September meeting of City Island Rising. My name is John Doyle. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the president of the board. We also have with us a few of our board members. We have Kim Woodruff right over here. David Diaz has been walking around. I think he just walked inside for a second. And we have Dan Schreiber, who's on our steering committee. I want to thank everyone for coming here. It's always a time, and there's a lot going on tonight in particular. I just wanted to start off the meeting with a brief moment of silence for Skip Giacco, who passed over the weekend. Skip was the former president of the chamber. For those of you who know Skip, and everyone does, because he also owned an ice cream store, he was someone who, when he saw wrongs, tried to right them. When he saw something that was wrong, tried to make it better. And I think that's kind of what we can take from his memory and his legacy on how to make the island a better place. We don't all have to agree with each other. We just have to try to find ways to work together to get good stuff done. So if you'll join me in a quick moment of silence. Okay, thank you all very much. We are fortunate tonight, as everyone here knows, we center a lot of the work we do around climate change and the environment. And make sure, because I know our sign-up sheet's going around, that you sign in. That way you get all the updates of all the different stuff we have going on. But our first guest for the evening is someone who works every day on these subjects. And her name is Lillit Genovesi. She is the Long Island Sound Study Outreach Coordinator for New York City and Westchester County for New York City Grant. So why don't you come on up here? Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. And I'll hand this right to you.
Oh, do I have to use this?
Unfortunately, it projects well, it carries well online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Lillit Genovesi. I've been with Long Island Sound Study for the last 3 years. I do outreach, and what that means is I work in communities helping to do everything from working with students and teachers, to hosting climate meetings with community groups, to working on some of our strategic plans and needs assessment for this program. So can I just, does anybody here know what the Long Island Sound Study is? So I'll talk briefly about Long Island Sound Study, and it's a very complicated relationship, between Long Island Sound Study and the organization that I work with, and where my, the organization sits up in Ithaca at Cornell. So it takes a little bit of explaining, but I did bring a lot of resources to make up for the talking. So Long Island Sound Study is part of EPA's estuary partnership. So what this means is that the federal government sets aside a certain amount of resources to help take care of the estuary. So right here, body of water surrounding City Island. This is all part of the Long Island Sound estuary. The Long Island Sound stretches actually all the way from Hell's Gate Bridge on Randall's Island to Block Island. So it's quite long. It's 110 miles long, about 21 miles wide, but very shallow water. As you know, this is a very important estuary, and estuaries are bodies of water where salt water from the ocean, so in this case from the Atlantic, is mixing with the water from the rivers and streams like the Bronx River. So I actually help bring a lot of students to the coast, just down the street at Orchard Beach, and we talk about why estuaries are some of the most productive, important habitats in the world, and how lucky we are that we live in New York City and we're next to this really amazing resource. So Sea Grant is actually a partner of the Long Island Sound Study, so our partnership for the estuary is made up of universities, businesses, state and local agencies, municipalities, organizations, community groups, volunteers, schools, teachers. So many people participate in the partnership, and we're all working together to take care of and help improve and protect and conserve this estuary. So one of the, for Sea Grant and for Long Island Town Study, one of our goals is a sustainable, resilient community. So that's why I'm here today, hopefully, to talk a little bit about that. And you can learn more about some of our efforts if you would like to take one of these sound updates, and maybe we'll just pass them around, because I did prepare some slides, but unfortunately I don't think this is, I think the artwork is probably better so we can. Maybe the sound update, but certainly the books as well. So if you take a look in here, you can see all of the different topics that the estuary program covers. Everything, like I said, from sustainable, resilient communities to healthy watersheds and wildlife, clean waters, and more recently, we're working on a public-facing goal as well. So I think the most important thing to know today is that the estuary program, Long Island Sound Study, is going through some changes. We're thinking about changing the name because it's not actually a study, right? It's an estuary partnership. So there will be some type of name change in the near future. But we also are working on rewriting and renewing our 10-year conservation management plan. And this is what this brochure is all about. So if you live, work, or play in the Long Island Sound region, we want to hear from you. There's a QR code, and there are some examples of why this work might matter to you. So if we're accepting public comments starting on September 23rd. The draft plan will be released, and anybody can go on our website and take a look at it and submit your comments. And EPA is required to reply to each of these comments. So it could be anything from, we want, these are actual comments that we heard, we want cleaner water, we are tired of seeing the trash on the water. What a lot of people have been commenting. And especially here in New York City, we have 9 million people living in very close proximity to this estuary. It's, I think, the second largest in the country. So, of course, there are some water quality concerns that happen. And I know John wanted me to talk a bit about climate change and flooding. And certainly the water quality issues are a concern along with the flooding. And I realized that City Island experiences some flooding. I think last year I was supposed to come to the Viva La Sound festival that was taking place, and I was having to drive through some flooding to get here. But I'll be there again this year. I think it's the 21st on Saturday, so hopefully I'll see you all here. A program of Sea Grant is the My Coast program. Has anybody heard about this? I'm sure John has been sharing a bit. So this is a way to document flooding in anywhere in New York State, actually. So Sea Grant subscribes to this. You can just use a smartphone to upload the app and then snap a photo. It's actually very unique because it connects the photo with the location and with flood sensor data and tidal data. So it can tell us and help inform everybody in the community, as well as people like emergency management or Department of State, where issues are. And once you have documentation of this, it's helpful for people to understand where mitigation might happen or where resources should go to help target some of the flooding concerns. So that's one project. And I did have some of Hannah's slides. Hannah Eisler, she Barrett. She was actually supposed to be the person presenting today. She asked me to come in. She works on a program called Flood Watch. It's very closely associated with My Coast in that it also documents flooding. And John's been a part of this work, installing sensors. I know on City Island I had a map of all the different places where those sensors are. So I think without my slides, I really couldn't talk much about it. But hopefully,
there's 4 on the island, and then there's going to be a number added in Pelham Bay Park. So the good news about that is that all the flooding, particularly over by Turtle Cove, over at different points of the park, is now going to be measured. Shore Road, obviously, so things that get measured are things that get done. Also, through the flood sensor, remember this is the city's data. So
This is the city's data, so the good news about that, just so everyone understands, is that as a result of their own instruments, their own measurements, we know that Ditmar Street is one of the worst flooded blocks in the entire city, on par with Block I, Block Island with the Rockaways, with parts of Bay Ridge, areas that flood, like we are up there now. So as a result, it's the city's own data. So as we can continue to point to that, it's incumbent on them to do something about that. So part of the reason that we want Lillit and everyone else to come here is that the My Coast app, we want everyone to download that, and when you see some flooding on your streets, please, please, please pull out your phone. It takes 2 minutes, if that. Get a photo of it, because this all feeds back into their collection center, and then when we ask for things like, fix Lake Orchard, fix the Miniford Moat, fix whatever else we're going to give some clever alliteration on, that we have all this data to back this up. And as a result, things that get measured are things that get done. So I just ask everybody, go online, go to the App Store. My Coast, it's for iPhones, it's also for Androids too?
Oh, yeah.
Great. And then for the study you're talking about, the Long Island study, what is the deadline for that?
So for Long Island Sound Study, the conservation management plan is going to inform the next 10 years of estuary resources and where that work will be done, what type of work happens, what are the things that are important to the communities. The public comment session starts on September 23rd, and it will go 60 days, and it will be on our website, so longislandsoundstudy.net. And so I do have the top secret plan here, but it's not yet released. So today, just today, we were meeting with our scientists and our Citizens Advisory Council to make sure that we're appropriately releasing the correct draft, that everybody agrees on everything that's in there. And it's actually really exciting work. So there's a new goal of an informed and engaged public. That means that resources will go to helping people understand how they participate in making sustainable, resilient communities, healthy watersheds, healthy ecosystems, increasing our habitats and clean waters, and access as well. Some of the other resources that I have are the Living Treasures books. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to give everybody one of the resources. If you come to the Viva La Sound, I promise I'll have more. I didn't think to bring too many, but it's a great turnout. And I also have our wildlife stickers. So these are hot off the press. They're river otters.
People will grab those.
Yeah, I'll just leave them there. River otter, fiddler crab, and terrapin, and also the horseshoe crabs. So upcoming events that were on my slide, the Viva La Sound, there is a Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund grant cycle that's opening next week. There will be an information session. So if you work with people that are, organizations or community groups, and you're looking for small grants to help kick off conservation projects, then this is a great opportunity to do that. They're accepting letters of interest, and it's one where we're specifically targeting communities with environmental justice needs. So it could be a two-way conversation about your project, to move forward. And some of the projects that got funded last year were things like living shorelines, getting students involved in conservation, pulling out invasive crabs from a marsh in Westchester. So a lot of very cool projects happening with that. Then I've got, as I mentioned, I work with teachers and students. We have a program called our Mentor Teacher Program. We actually did a mentor teacher workshop in partnership with PS 175. We had 2 teachers there host a workshop. We brought teachers to the coast. We looked at the oysters and the living shoreline. We have another one coming up at SUNY Maritime, just around the corner. And that's going to be on the 29th of September. It's a Sunday. And teachers or educators are invited to come. It's a free day. We take them out on the water on a research vessel, test water quality. There's another one in Westchester County on October 5th. And I think that's all for I'm trying to remember my slides. I didn't memorize them, but that might be all for the upcoming events. Any questions?
Do you work with the Hutchinson River Restoration Project?
I do know Barbara.
Right.
And Aji.
Right.
Yeah, I think they partner with us.
I figured they must.
Yeah, they're great. They're doing phenomenal work. So much work needed on the water body for sure. So my office is actually at the New York City DEP in Queens. So there, that's also one of our partners. So I did give them a heads up that I was coming. They said to say hello.
Does anyone have any questions about the Long Island Sound or the study or anything like that? We just want to make sure, people get to ask their questions, and we try to keep it environmentally focused, because Long Island Sound tends to bring everybody together. Everyone agrees it should be cleaned up.
Yeah.
I guess a question, just to step this off, is that obviously there's a lot of pollution in the Hutchinson River, as Paige was just saying there. There's going to be a watershed plan. There's already one going through Westchester. There's going to be one in the Bronx. I guess, what sort of kind of tie-in do you have with the work that you're doing with watershed plans, and how do we make sure that there's minimal CSOs going into the Long Island Sound and the Hutchinson River? I don't know if everyone here knows, but with Save the Sound, which is another nonprofit, they give letter grades to different portions of the Long Island Sound. They've been doing this for 15 years. And some of the areas have went from C's to B's, D's to C's. We've been in F since '08, and we've stayed in F. So I guess, what is the work we can do? And it's not your fault. I'm not trying to put you on the fire here. That's not in any way my intention. But the good news with money coming in is that we might be able to improve these situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what can we do working with you to try to improve the Long Island Sound?
Right, so that's a great question. And the watershed plan, both for Westchester and Hutchinson River, I believe are being funded through the estuary program.
Okay.
So that is money that's going there. Save the Sounds report card is also estuary program funding. So that's a partner for EPA. All of these are partners. I think in terms of water quality, one of the biggest, most costly efforts taken on by the estuary partnership was the sewer treatment plant upgrades. So it was to remove nitrogen. So talking to scientists just recently, we've done all that we could, it seems, practically speaking, with the wastewater treatment plants to remove as much nitrogen as possible. It's improved water quality by at least 50% throughout Long Island Sound. And in New York City, we get a lot of the blame for the water quality issues. Because we do have a very high concentrated population right here on the water. However, the nitrogen isn't just, coming from wastewater treatment plants. It's coming from runoff from yards, right? Using fertilizer on the lawn right before rain, or too much fertilizer. There's types of fertilizers that are better than other types. Pet waste, making sure there isn't too much surface runoff. So improving green spaces, that makes a huge difference. So it's little by little increasing green spaces, removing permeable surfaces, and working all the way up the watershed. So Long Island Sound's watershed actually stretches to Quebec. So all of Connecticut, Vermont, Massachusetts, they're all contributing to the nitrogen. Even though New York City, we get a lot of the blame, right? Like I mentioned, but there's also programs, upstream that are being targeted. So our Futures Fund, which you'll see on the map in here, we actually work up in the watershed too. So there's, this one program that I will never forget. It's a pea cycling. They take cow pea and they recycle the nitrogen to grow, vegetation, and it's a way to reduce the nitrogen. So we can think about our individual actions. I have a brochure here. It's only in Spanish currently, but we are working on updating this it talks about stormwater runoff. So all the ways that we can improve the nitrogen and phosphorus that are going into the water, and how eventually that will help with things like hypoxia, which is the really low oxygen concentrations in the water. Yes?
So that's nothing to do with the urine use on the farm. That goes back hundreds of years.
Right.
It's interesting how things come back.
Right.
It's like, gee, we forgot, we used to do that, that works.
Yeah, I think it's the scale of it that was like, yeah.
So, as far as the sewage treatment, I don't know about everybody here, but most island people who go to Orchard Beach know that New Rochelle is a huge offender of sewage. Apparently, all the development in that town, which has gone vertical in the last decade, they haven't upgraded their sewage treatment one bit. So when we get heavy rainfall, they kind of mix sewage with runoff, and they say, well, we have nothing to do, so they just basically flush right into the sound. And when this happens, the following day, Orchard Beach is closed for swimming.
To build off what this gentleman said, we'll agree with it. Also, Mount Vernon, had a big sewer problem, and I know the state swooped in to fix that. So, right here on the border, I agree. I think it's a lot of, these small municipalities that, it's not that the people don't want this. I mean, Mount Vernon, it's literally going into their basements. It's for everybody that, you just have situations where there's, a small tax base, and sometimes they can't fix these things. New Rochelle, obviously, a very different situation.
Yeah.
But I guess what is being done through the grants to make sure that everybody's putting in their fair share to make the situation better?
So in terms of the grant, the municipalities will apply for the funding generally. So we have, municipalities in Connecticut, further upstate applying for the funding. So it's voluntarily.
It's surprising there's not a prerequisite. Bring the infrastructure up to speed before you expand the population and development such that it outpaces the existing. We went through this on this island over the years of various schemes that were going to go on here, and high density housing and this and that, and we all get accused of being xenophobic.
Yeah.
No, actually, there's one way in and out of here. There's one firehouse. It's, at what point do we want to become Manhattan? We're like a miniature Manhattan anyway with parking. Ask anybody that tries to park up here.
You're not the only community too that says this. I think even in New Rochelle and Portchester, when we work with when I do these presentations there, we heard the same thing from the people there. The people that actually live there say, like, we have enough congestion. So it's the developers, and I'm not allowed to be advocacy, but that it's certainly a concern, and you can submit it.
We'll be doing that. I didn't mean to get into this, but you brought up the sewage treatment.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not
Good question.
What are we doing with ADVs, abandoned derelict vessels, that are all over there? This is a huge problem in this country. Every state has the issue of people abandoning their boats.
Yeah.
Well, for the last half a century, boats are made out of fiberglass. That's plastic. Doesn't biodegrade. Old wooden boats used to disappear in 2 years.
Actually, the city is now, the city now has a program that was passed through the city council. That's why a lot of the boats that were near the bridge were picked up. But if you have extra ones, what they're going to do now is it's going to be a grant-funded it's funded through the city right now, through the city's budget. The mayor gave $1 million. They spent over $300,000 removing all the boats that were there. I know there are 2 more there now. So it's a reactive program. I know some of the state legislators, building on what you're saying, because you're absolutely right, they are trying to find a funding mechanism. Either it's going to be more on boat registrations, or building off what you're saying, in Georgia, they have a system where if they can identify who owns the boat through VIN numbers or anything else, they will tell the person, either come and clean it up, or we're going to suspend your license and put a lien on you and get the money back that way. So I understand you're saying there's no accountability in a lot of these things. You're absolutely right.
So I've actually interacted with various authorities over the years about exactly that.
Yeah.
My boat registration just renewed for 2 more years. I think there were 500,000 boats registered in the Empire State. Everybody gave $10, that'd be a $5 million fund.
You're 100% right.
The fund being the purpose of someone who's done with their boat. The problem is not how do we react and get the boat that's abandoned that wrecks on the beach in the storm.
That's right.
The problem is the boat owner who's done with the boat that can't sell it has nowhere to bring it, so they abandon it.
So you're 100% right. I think what they're trying to do, and I'll get your email and I'll send you some of this stuff. I know the city is also looking into, it's a little bit reactionary, so I understand your criticism thereof, but it's supposed to be like every few months they're going to have something like a recycling program where you could drop off your boat and the city will take it off your hands. That's what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I
Those
get
boat
it.
yards, the commercial yards,
Yeah.
you may have, I don't know, you've probably heard this. The commercial boat yard gets stuck with an abandoned boat. Costs them a fortune to dispose of it properly, so a lot of times they let them go.
Right now, we're dealing with, I work for Cornell, that's the college extension program that does the sea grant work. So one of their programs for the Estuary Partnership funded was removing derelict fishing gear. So I think boats were part of it, but I know that it was like crab traps and fishing line and other nets and things. So, hopefully, little by little, there's just many, types of marine debris, and there is a marine debris action plan. And so, I believe that the vessels are listed under there. It just happens to not be like something that I really focus on being in New York City. City Island is probably unique in that, the population here knows and understands it more than most people.
And Patrick, there's a question I want to get to him, and maybe you could answer this and go into his question. Building on what this gentleman said, you said you're the DEP headquarters. For everyone who doesn't know, that's a city agency, the Department of Environmental Protection, the people who do the water bills and control the sewer infrastructure here. Being that you're in their building, are you working in close consultation with them? Because I know, particularly the city has been criticized, and we're passing around something now that was in the city newspaper, where they have not utilized or really went after the Green Bond Initiative. That was supposed to, that's billions of dollars, and I think the city's only like 2%, even though we're 40% of the population. So I guess, I'm not trying to put you on the spot too much, but is there close synergy with the city to make sure the city's taking advantage of these federal grants? Because they don't seem to be doing that yet with the state money.
Yeah, I think the city, for instance, the wastewater treatment upgrades, that was a huge chunk of the EPA's budget that went to that. So they do take advantage. Naturally.
Good evening, thank you for joining us. I'm the scientist, board member of the Richmond River Restoration Project, so it's great to see you here. But my question for you, or more my comment actually, I think the Hutchinson River is kind of unique. We've dealt for years or forever with Mount Vernon, the sewage problem. That's kind of been looked at more carefully than it used to be. But one pollution that is not really being considered, and we are right now, is pollution that comes from all the industry that's on the riverside. And there's a lot of it. And people just don't know what to do about it. We're monitoring the water, we're looking at the riverbed, we're doing whatever we can, but that's just reporting on what's happening. But to prevent it, we have no idea where to go with that. So I don't know if Long Island is in the same boat, but as a metaphor.
That's better, just understand that some of those companies have been fined, but they actually came in, they grandfathered in some of the West. Take that boat on with the Hudson River. It's great. It's a really wonderful tour. Yeah.
I know Barbara had mentioned to me like all the chemicals of emerging concern, right? I think it's something that Sea Grant National is looking at. Right now there's a big focus on the microplastics, and because it is, you probably know, like attaching to the harmful chemicals, and then that's being brought into the ecosystem. It's all certainly of concern, but if you have a comment about pollutants of emerging concern, this would be a great place, to note that. And I know marine debris is in the current plan. I don't remember if like PFAS and all of those are mentioned in there.
Well, Sound is upriver or downriver, same river, but they don't have the industry problem that we have. We're both dealing with it on a different perspective. So.
Thank you.
No easy solution.
Okay, does anyone, and if someone wants to get in touch with you, Lily, what's the best way they can do that?
I didn't bring I might have some in my bag. My information is on the back of the sound update. It's just my name dot last name at cornell.edu. That's my email.
Cool. And then we have one more question up there.
Yeah, the section I addressed, I was just wondering about the Office of Marine Debris Removal. I was wondering if our council person had changed their stance and allocated any budget toward that effort. Our last council person did, this one did not allocate any budget toward marine debris removal. I just wondered if any changes.
So you're actually the one who found this and brought this to my attention, which I really appreciate. I'm not aware at the city level that much has changed. I know the mayor had stepped in at one point and funded it. I think what we've been also talking about doing is with our state legislators is having the state, as we were talking about earlier, through boat registrations, through other funds, come up with a funding mechanism to continuously do it, because you're right, John, it's not fair that it falls on the individual council members and you know, who knows what sort of budget they're going to get that year or what other priorities they may have in their district. And it really should just be something that's steadily funded because it is a historical and ongoing problem. And it's actually, and I spoke of this before at a few meetings, but